I was so passionate about this. My heart just sings every time I do this because we have been oppressed for so long. So I actually feel honoured myself personally that I have this this opportunity to do this, to play this role in our lives. It's a really big deal for me. So I got to the point before that we were discussing about how we were on this level here, and before I go any further, I want to say that what I shared with you in the first session, in the first part, is those key bits of information that are just so important to understand how magnificent you are. Honestly, it is so important to understand how powerful and magnificent each and every one of us is, because we get downtrodden in our lives. What's continually being propagated on this planet is this notion that humanity needs mentoring, that we are no good, that we are children in comparative to galactic levels of communities, let alone cosmic communities. So it's your choice what you choose to accept as what reality is. We got to this point and we needed to then put the brakes on because life here was going to be very different to anything we've experienced before. And that thick universal membrane there, that void is there because what goes on down here is, you could say, evil exists down here but doesn't exist up here. That's putting it bluntly and basically. Okay? The version of duality down here is vastly different. Here, everything is in oneness and harmony. Even though I said there's duality all the way up, and people have a problem with that because of their conditioning, they just don't understand light. Okay? If you're up at the light of God, it's light. It's frequency. Okay? It's light. It comes in many versions. So down here, the version of life is vastly different. And here, the only thing that occurs here, which you could term negative in any way, shape or form, is a difference of opinion. And nowhere near what we would call a difference of opinion. Because the moment anyone feels that difference of opinion in there, that means the law of attraction is already dragging them down into this part of the universe. The moment you start to have that happen here, that's right, you've got a difference of opinion. I wish you well on your journey. The knowing, it's not said, it's just a knowing straight away. Because you're already getting those charges happening in a more pronounced fashion. And there's beings who, before they come down here from up this realm, they start dabbling. They're the beings that we interact with, light beings from high dimensions. Because they can't dabble down into here without being affected by universal consciousness. Let me explain it this way. If you have plus and minus, okay, it's like the scales of life, okay, positive and negative, the scales of balance. The moment you start dabbling down to those lower paradigms, you're either exploring this charge of life further or you're exploring that charge of life further. So you're creating an imbalance. You're already starting to create an imbalance. So if you come from the fifth dimension, you're up here and you start interacting with life down here, you're creating a more positive charge or negative charge, depending on what you're doing, on your soul. That means you're on your way down. because you're creating imbalance. So if you have beings who are interacting and meditating, these wondrous beings of light, and they do like a healing or they provide information or whatever, then these beings here are starting to create an imbalance and they're on the way down. And that's what happens. It's like dipping your toe in to the pool before you're going to take a dive in. You're just getting a feel for it. And the more they interact, the quicker they go down. Because this is where the realm of unconditional love is. Unconditional love means you don't interfere. That's the ultimate definition of unconditional love. You just allow things to be. No conditions. You let things be. Universal law of non-interference. This is what we're discussing here. Because the moment you interfere, the moment you interact, whatever that paradigm is that you're interacting with, you're starting to get that frequency. You're starting to get that charge on your soul. You start throwing yourself out of balance one way or the other. Very, very important piece of information. Really helps you to understand when you're interacting with beings from higher levels what's going on here. They're already on their way in if they're interacting with you. Because all the beings of the true light and the beings of unconditional love, they just stand back and let life take its course. I remember dabbling. I remember having that charge happen. And I remember coming in. And what we have down in this realm, which I call the fourth dimension, in physical size, it's by far the biggest. Because we reach maximum expansion down through the universe in this domain here. It's massive. And all these different vibratory levels you see here, that's nowhere near enough. Do that times 100 at least. Okay, you just got to understand how many frequencies and overtones there are in that fourth dimensional paradigm. An incredible amount. And what happens is, because of that, when there's beings down here, when they look up, there's beings up at the top end of this structure. They look like angels, ascended masters, gods. This is something very, very, very important to understand. Just how big this paradigm is and just how caught beings and races are in this paradigm. Because when you're down here and you look up, there's beings up here that have angelic hierarchies of ascended masters, and all sorts of spiritual hierarchies going on. There are beings, look, you've got to understand we're talking about a universe, and we're talking about universal evolution over eons and eons and eons of time. It is very important to understand just how powerful some of these beings have become. We're talking about universal life. We're talking about cosmic life. Expand your awareness. Start realizing they have been manipulating life for a very, very, very long time. Billions of years. Imagine what they've learned over billions of years of manipulating other life forms. So please understand what we're talking about here. I acknowledge them and I respect them, because you've got to give credit where it's due. And they're genius. We're talking about genius here. I mean, this is all they do. They go and they present themselves to planetary populations and they manipulate them and they control them. And they've been doing this for eons of time. I've gone through the 4D New Age paradigm. I've come out of it. I stood up in 2004 and said, I'm a member of the Galactic Federation of Light. You can see for yourselves my videos on the internet. Because when I got back from that journey in 2003, they manipulated me. They went to town on me because all of a sudden in the matrix, I stuck out like a beacon because my frequency changed so much. You know, it's like that thing pop up and you hit it with a hammer to bash it back down. It's that kind of, if I can use that as a metaphor, you know? That's what they wanted to do to me. But I wouldn't play their game, so they went to town on me, getting abducted 2 to 3 times a week, memory screenings, brainwashing programs, highly sophisticated ones, highly sophisticated. Because I've had the shadow government versions where they pump you full of drugs and brainwash you with their programs. I've been through that. And I'm very vigilant within myself. Because people say, you know, maybe you're still being manipulated, George. Well, they're trying it on me all the time. I'm very well aware which thoughts are mine and which ones aren't. And don't think you're any different, because no one in here in this room is immune from that. When you really look at your mind, and you really look at your mind in a day, which thoughts are yours, which ones aren't, we'll get into that later. Because I'm telling you, it's frightening for some people to realise that their mind is not even theirs. And I'm not making this up. It's just whether people have the strength, internal strength, to admit that that's happening to them or not. It's understanding what the mind matrix is all about, that we're inside of. So, here we have all these beings here playing gods. One of them, I'll categorically say, is called Jehovah. He resides here. And I know, because I took this journey. I know where he lives. I know where he resides. Down here. He's a 4D entity playing God. And I'll stand up and I'll say it all around the world, because that's fact. That's universal truth. They feed off worship. That's how they become empowered. They enslave races because they want to access life force. That is the key commodity. Forget minerals like gold or anything like that. That's for very low vibrational races who are interested in those sort of things. Then you go to technology. How can technology be used to control and manipulate life? Then you get to life force. How do you control life to manipulate life, to gain power through that life? Genetics are the #1 commodity in the cosmos for those who are into commodities. I'm not. I'm just sharing with you the beings who are into control and manipulation and controlling collectives, economic collectives and paradigms of control. Our genetics are the most prized possession in the universe because of who and what we are, and I'm going to get to that. So understand what these beings want. When we worship them, when we pray to them, they've never ever been fed so much power, ever, in the universe. So here we have this incredible paradigm called the 4D paradigm. And the New Age at the moment on this planet is full of entities and beings and ET races, because you've got to understand thousands of ET races have been assimilated into these paradigms. We're talking about vibrational paradigms. Here we have a planetary paradigm. This reality vibrates a particular level. When I got taken to Mars, that planet vibrated a different level. When I was standing on the surface of that planet, I didn't like it. And for those who are new to this, we've got 1 million people there already. Nothing new behind the scenes. Don't forget, you're being treated like mushrooms. Kept in the dark, fed bullshit. I'm telling you the truth here. This is not a made-up story. So many people who work in these black ops are coming out talking about what's going on Mars. It's just a shock to mental paradigms who are not used to this kind of information. And you're probably thinking, well, wouldn't we hear about it? Of course you wouldn't. Do you know what's going on in the world of ballerinas? Who's doing what gig where? You don't, because you don't put your attention there. You don't put your awareness there. Do you know who the latest recruits are for Manchester United? No, because you don't put your awareness there. So if you put your awareness to these sorts of issues, you're going to find out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. I got taken there, and there's a whole lot going on Mars which people aren't aware of. That's why the notion that a probe being sent to Mars is the forefront of human evolution. It's the biggest joke going around. It's the biggest joke going around. And you've got to understand the technologies and all the crafts that are available to hide in other frequencies. Our eyes can only see a tiny little spectrum of reality. And then you go to the infrared reality. I mean, buy infrared night vision goggles and look up at the night sky. Go for it. And you can see it's like peak hour out there. They're expensive though, but lots of people have done that, and you can see them flying around in the infrared spectrum. So we've come down through all these different dimensions, explored every single possibility and outcome. Maximum expansion. What are we doing now? We're bringing it together. We're bringing it together. Because if you want to now become a universal creator of light, you need to reintegrate all your fragmented self, states of self, and you need to then take all that knowledge and wisdom that you've gained through all of those experiences and reintegrate them. So I'll stand here before you now, and I'm going to tell you, I have been the most evil of evil that has ever existed. The most evil thing you could possibly imagine, I have been that. And I have been the most loving and the most caring and the most compassionate and the most empathetic being that has ever existed. I've been that too, and I've done that too. Because I have been everything that this universe has to offer. So have any of you been evil? If you can't go there, then you better think again. Why can't I go there? Why can't I see myself as being evil? Because you've done it in this lifetime, for starters. So get over your self-righteousness. Please, start being realistic. Okay? Address your egos and say, crikey, why can't I admit to doing wrong things to people? Because it's impossible to exist in this reality and be totally good all the time. It just doesn't work. At some stage in your life, you've done something that hasn't been right. You might not acknowledge it or recognise it, but one day you'll see what it's like for the person on the receiving end of you. One day soon we're all going to be experiencing. Like when the veil lifts, I'm going to feel everything each one of you are feeling now. And you're going to feel me experiencing you from up here. So much to talk about today, my goodness. Okay. So when I've said that we are galaxies, that we are universes, that we are galaxies and we are planets and we are stars, please understand, next time you entertain the idea and the concept of oneness, contemplate how integrated we are. We are so one. We are so integrated. I'm inside each and every one of you. I'm inside of you. As you're a universe, I'm inside of you, and to me, you're God in that universe. I'm inside of you as a galaxy. Not only as a being incarnate on a planetary system, but I'm a star in your galaxy. You're a star in my galaxy. I'm a planet in your galaxies. I'm inside of you as a planet. I'm inside of you as a star. And I may have multiple incarnational aspects incarnated on your planetary systems inside your galaxies. Isn't that amazing? When you really, really start to feel that, to understand that. Because we get this thing, oh, we're all one, it's all beautiful, isn't it great? What level are you processing that on? Because if you only keep it on this level, then you're no greater than the collective, like a beehive or an ant's nest. They're all one, right? Let's go deep. Let's go expansive. Let's go both ways and really look at life and its actual construct. I mean, crikey, we are so integrated. We're all inside one another in so many different forms. Wow, we're all one. Whew, that is awesome. And so once we got to this maximum expansion, let's bring it back together. So how's that process going to be? Because how is it we found ourselves on planet Earth at this time? This is where this is leading to. This is, who are we all? Where do we come from? What are we doing here? So I've explained as far as my awareness can where we've come from and who and what we are. Now I'm getting to what planet Earth is all about and what the human race is all about. I want you to have a look at that. understand that concept is so important, because if you really want to get why we're all here and what humanity is all about, this is a very, very important ingredient, because this overcomes the internal divide. Because all we do is judge ourselves and beat ourselves up. So I want you to know just how perfect you all are right now, as you are right now. You don't have to become like a priest or a monk or anything in order to be spiritual, in order to ascend. You don't have to be any of that. All you've got to do is be you. Mother Earth, how is it we found ourselves right here on this planet? Why is it we're here? And why are we in these male-female forms having this incredible experience? Just a few more quick images of the cosmos there, just for the expansion of our awareness. So we have this universal consciousness that said, right, all these beings are coming inside of me and they're going to learn how to be like me. So what's the best way to go about it? So the female aspect of this consciousness, of this universal consciousness, the Creator, Divine Mother, whatever you want to call her, said, I'm going to manifest myself as a galaxy, because it's the female energy that spawns life, that life is birthed through. She's the one that facilitates that process. So she created a galactic womb, and we call it the Milky Way galaxy. That's why we call it the Milky Way galaxy, because it's the nurturing of the mother's milk. It's understanding where all these names come from. Why? Why is it called the Milky Way galaxy? Who is this galaxy we're inside of? Remember I said we're all galaxies, but who's the Milky Way galaxy? So first of all, before you even get to understand who Mother Earth is, understand the galaxy you're inside of. And in the Egyptian pantheon, it's called Ma'at. There's so many names in every culture. I'm just sharing ones I'm familiar with. And so each star system here, here's the out of all these billions of stars, who are these stars? This is the interesting part. Each star system here in this galaxy is a fractal of a galaxy, if you understand what that means. You get a whole galaxy and you compress the expression of that whole entire galactic consciousness and you compress it down into a star system. That version of that galaxy as it is. Not just that consciousness says, all right, I'm going to go manifest myself as a star, and whatever happens as the star, it happens. No, I'm talking about get a whole galactic paradigm and compress that paradigm with all the life and all the experiences every being has ever had in that galaxy, and you squash it and you compress it down into a star. Because we are now on the road to compression. And that's understanding why this reality here is the densest in the universe. First of all, you've got to be in the densest galaxy, right, to be in the densest planet. You've got to have the paradigms, the vibrational paradigms and realities to facilitate the experiences. And so this galaxy, every single star system in this galaxy is a fractal of a galaxy. Because the Divine Mother Essence said, I'm going to facilitate this process. And then you've got the male aspect of the consciousness of the universe that has manifested itself as the Andromedan galaxy. And that's right next door to this one, and its consciousness is the male essence of this universe. Don't take my word for it. Connect with these beings yourself and find out for yourselves. I'm not making this up. And so what we're looking at now is a stepping down of universal consciousness to facilitate this process firsthand. And we're on the road to compression. Because remember, we went to maximum expansion, and now we're bringing it together. You can go back the other way, but the compression journey into integration is shorter. So that's why, just diagrammatically, this is how I'm expressing it. And we've got it in our hands. This journey's right there in our hands like that. Okay? It's not some weird ET symbol or anything. It's just our hands is what we do things with, what we create, what we manifest things in the doing. And there it is right there. So we go the long journey of expansion, much shorter journey into reintegration. Because we're going to get everything integrated back into oneness and harmony, back to 0 point. And so here we are in this galaxy. And the way it worked was, who were the beings that were going to choose this journey into this galaxy? And so each galactic consciousness, reality of each galaxy, and all the spiritual hierarchies in each galaxy, all the beings that have had all their experiences there, got together and worked out who was going to represent that expression of life, them, those races and those peoples who exist in those paradigms, who vibrate those versions and expressions of life. And we stuck our hands up because the journey that was going to be undertaken was known from back then. And it was going to take only beings with a lot of wisdom and a lot of courage to embark on this journey. Because think about it for a moment. Here you are in a universal paradigm, you've had maximum expansion. Okay? We've gone to all these galaxies, we're having lots of fun, right? Cosmic wars, everything, intergalactic wars, all this sort of stuff. And now this road to compression. Because a lot of people got high and mighty as they are in that state of being. Because the road to compression means, crikey, I'm going to densify my existence, which means also I'm going to shrink my existence from this maximum expansion. And I've got to take this long, arduous journey. Very difficult, very challenging, very long, very arduous journey. And there's a chance I might get trapped in that paradigm for a long time. That was the other concern. And so we have every single star system here and all the beings that originally incarnated when this galaxy was created were the ambassadors and the way showers of life on this road to compression, on this road to integration, on this road to oneness. And so from there, we came into this galaxy, streamed in here, and we had what was called galactic wars inside. And the universal consciousness said, well, this warring energy, which is more male-orientated, we need to transmute that now. It's the time in the process, the divine plan, to transmute that energy. So the male consciousness said, I'm going to manifest myself as another reality inside of you so we can transmute that energy. And that's what we call the Orion system, the Orion Nebula. So you've gone from the consciousnesses of the universe and have manifested themselves as galaxies. Now they're manifesting themselves as star systems within this galaxy. Because if you look at yourself as a creator, put yourself in their shoes for a moment, right? Are you going to have a universe? Are you going to let beings stream inside of you and you're just going to sit there high and mighty and say, no, you guys sort it out? How are you going to go about sorting this issue out of maximum expansion and integration and separation? A lot of divisions between beings. How are you going to sort that out as a creator? How would you go about it? What plan would you devise to make this happen? Would you force them into a small confined space and get them to sort it out so they learn for themselves? Or are you going to do it for them, which they'll never learn from, really? So if you look at it from that point of view, this makes sense. So the Orion Nebula was manifested. And it's big. Don't think the Orion system is small. You know, when you look at the saucepan and all that up in the sky, some of those stars are trillions of miles apart, light years apart. You just see them as though they're flat, but one's much deeper than the other. They just look like they're all in a row together. No way. The Orion Nebula is massive. It's like a mini galaxy within this galaxy. And when we all went into there, oh, well, I did. Some of you might not have, but I think everybody did, really, because you need to experience everything in life. We had a lot of wars, the Orion Wars, and that's what the Star Wars shows were all about. What you saw in those Star Wars programs was so close to the truth. Those sort of empires, those sort of wars, they all existed. This is not a sci-fi story. This is reality. It's big cosmos. That's why so many people loved it. They connected with it. That latent memory deep inside of themselves. I've spoken to people who remember being a part of that. The deprivation of spirit there was disgusting. What took place in the technology that was used to quash the spirit of beings was absolutely disgusting. I remember being there, and I'm tingling from head to toes, I'm telling you. It was really a very tough time, because that's why we call Orion the Hunter. It's the archetype. Because you need to have that vibrational energy. The male warrior energy needed to transmute. It was a big part of our integration process. Got to get that warring tribe energy out of us. So a massive chunk of that energy got transmuted in that paradigm during that epoch and that era. And so what we have now is another stepping down. The female consciousness manifested herself as Sirius. And that's why when you look at all the teachings of the cultures all around the world, Sirius and Orion are prominent in every single one of them. You've got to understand just how important these two energetic patterns are, these star systems are. And the third biggest one of amount of energy that's invested into this reality is the Pleiades. And I'll get into that later. Pleiadians are very, very important in this process. Now, as you know, Orion or Osiris, because that's what they're talking about there, there's all sorts of ideas about who and what Osiris is. Osiris is the consciousness of the Orion star system, okay? They got together, him and his wife, Isis, which is Sirius, got together and had a child, a son, Horus, who just happened to be the sun god. And he's not sun god as you know him, not the real one. Okay? It's not into worship or anything like that. And so the female energy manifested herself as the earth. Mother Earth, Father Sun. I know from personal experience who the consciousness and the essence of the being that is this planet is, and I know through personal experience who the consciousness and the essence of the sun is. Why do you think the sun is so prominent? Not because it just gives us light, but you're inside that solar system. You're inside this solar system. You're inside this being. If you know anything about cosmic paradigms, if you know anything about life in the universe, then you know that if you go and you exist on a particular planetary body, it means you are on a being's body. It's like someone coming and living on your body. You just got to realise how cut off from reality we've become. To have lost that memory, that most basic principle of understanding throughout the whole universe, you've forgotten that. You exist right here, right now, because this woman had the courage to manifest herself as Mother Earth. If she didn't, this planet wouldn't be here, you wouldn't be here. So your very existence here, to begin with, is because of her. You breathe in, right now you had a breath, didn't you? You breathed her atmosphere. At the break you had a drink, didn't you? You drank her waters. You eat her food. Just really basic contemplation. Crikey, yeah. How often in a day will you stop and go, thanks. Thanks, Big Mama. I appreciate that. Thanks for the water that I drank. Thank you for the air that I breathe and the food that I eat. Thank you for allowing me to come here and exist and have my experiences on your body. But we don't. Some do, but not many at all. How disconnected we've become from reality. My goodness. So how an essence incarnates into a reality is like this. You know how I said we came into the universe and we enter the universe, become one with the universe, calibrate with ourselves with the universe, right? Well, we do the same. We enter a galaxy. If you're going to incarnate anywhere in the universe, this is how you go about it. First of all, you enter through the core of that galactic consciousness, because that galaxy vibrates different to every other galaxy. Each galaxy's got its own vibration, its own expression. So you enter through the core of the galaxy and you merge and become one with the being that is that galaxy. That's for starters. Then your consciousness, your essence, travels out through one of these arms, if it's a spiral arm galaxy like this, like ours, down through that river of life, or an umbilical cord, if you want to put it in reality. It's like a river and you've got cities clustered around, you know, a river. It's the same principle. You've got energetic life force streams and you've got all the stars and planetary systems clustered around these energetic life force streams. Scientists want to call it just its gravity and things like that that create this. But it's not. It's so much more than that. It's deeper than that. And you then gravitate, right? Gravitate to the star system that you've put your awareness to, that you're heading towards, you're gravitating towards it through the law of attraction. You are being attracted to that vibrational paradigm, to that vibrational reality, to have those particular set of experiences. Get where I'm coming from here? And you travel out through there to whichever star, maybe it's that little tiny dot right there. And you go, that's where I'm headed. You might have a few little stops along the way for whatever adjustments or things that you need to do, but then you get there. And then you enter through the core of that star. Now I'm talking about an organic, incarnational construct. I'm not talking about walk-ins. I'm not talking about being put here by an ET race via a spaceship. I'm talking about a universal, organic, incarnational construct. Okay? Then we enter through the core and the essence of that star, because you're going to exist inside the vibrational paradigm and reality of that star system, that solar system. So you've got to acclimatise yourself to that reality so you can exist in that harmoniously. So you've forgotten how just integrated you are with the sun. What do you think Akhenaten was trying to say? It's not worship the sun. He's trying to explain the construct. But archaeologists won't do that. They've got to maintain the status quo of this brainwashing paradigm. It's sun worship. What a load of rubbish. It's not sun worship. It's merely explaining the construct of life. I'll give you an analogy. Closed-minded archaeologists who want to defend their religion and their belief system will go to an ancient cave painting and they will see an ancient person, ancient tribesperson, killing an animal and him holding the heart up like this. And I go, oh look, he just sacrificed that animal to appease his god. Blood sacrifice. That's what they'll say. That's their interpretation. Because they're brainwashed into believing that's what used to happen. But they have absolutely no concept of the idea that he's honouring the spirit of that animal for sacrificing its life so that he could eat and feed his family and continue to survive in this reality. How different is that interpretation? How different is what really happened to the interpretation that gets forced and rammed into the psyche of the human race in today's world. Because apparently we're more advanced than ever before, apparently. And that's a load of BS as well. We are about as primitive as life has ever existed on this planet, ever. It's devolution, not evolution. Big difference. There is no way they can reconstruct the pyramids today. And they know they can't. Here's another example. When the Aswan Dam was built, here you have statues of Ramesses that weighed thousands of tons. The most advanced crane technology we had in the 60s could not lift those statues. Just to move them a few hundred metres, they had to cut them into 3 pieces. The maximum weight possible with the most advanced cranes that we had on the planet in our lives today, because we're more advanced, right? Could not lift those statues. They can only lift 1/3 of the weight of those statues. And it took them a whole 6 months to move them a few hundred metres. And you're going to get told that a bunch of savages with a few logs built those statues, transported them and erected them. That is insanity. And people believe them. That is total insanity. So please, let's get real here. Let's get real. Let's start being real, because I'm a realist. I'm not into fantasy. I'm not into belief systems. I'm a realist. I travelled, I experienced, and I know what's real. And I damn well know what's not real. I know about the illusion. I know about the lies being imposed on the human race. I know about them. And I'm here to expose them. And I will. Okay. We have, like I said, our incarnational construct. We entered through the essence of the sun. We then entered through the essence of the earth. We became one with Mother Earth. You are so integrated with her, let alone that you're breathing her air right now, you're drinking her water, and you're eating her food. So all you're going to do is remember that connection. This is not about goddess worship. This is not about sun worship. This is about re-remembering our incarnational constructs, our organic construct to life. Because anybody who meditates and goes within themselves, they'll tell you where you go from there next. Straight down to the core of the earth. Then you go to the core of the sun, then your consciousness goes out into the rest of the universe. That's the path. That's the natural flow. The Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Mother Earth, you. That's the real Holy Trinity here. Local Holy Trinity, not universal. If you don't understand life on this level, how can you possibly expect to understand universally the construct of life? So what I recommend people to do is start re-remembering their very basic existence here to start with. Start there. Just go local first. Don't worry about all these ETs coming here telling you about all this other stuff. Because they want to bypass that organic connection. They've got another agenda. Because if you meet any ET from the true light, they're going to encourage you to go within yourself and start getting that organic connection happening once again. That's what they do, because they know the truth. That's why we're here on Mother Earth. And that's why so many ET races are fascinated in our genes, because we are human. What does human mean? For those who are not familiar, I've mentioned this before, but for those who are not familiar, what is human? And people have a go at me about this definition. Right? Let them. Let them have a go, all they like. Man. That's an ancient word for God. That's an ancient word for mind. Godly beings of godly mind. You can go looking that up, go right ahead. But people are defending their belief systems. They don't want the word Hugh to mean God. That's, again, why are we called human? Why is we call her Mother Earth? It's understanding who Aya was as well. It's just understanding why things are labelled the way they are. Okay. Godly beings of godly mind. What's our DNA? What's our genetics? Who are we the embodiment of? Because this is the microcosm of the macrocosm. We're on the road to compression. Because remember, we are compressing everything. Everything. So now we have taken a whole universal paradigm and we have now compressed it into one planetary system. Nowhere else in the universe is life as diverse as it is here. Nowhere. And once you get through this veil of illusion that we've got here, that our minds are plugged into, the planetary matrix, and then you get past the cosmic matrix that these other ET races are imposing on humanity as well, and you get to reality, then you realise out there, multitudes of life throughout the universe hold us in the highest esteem, the highest regard, and they know that we are the way showers. They know. Because they are our family. And they're watching us with unconditional love, being exposed to all this deception, to all these lies, and they're standing back and they're just watching us go through it. Because just like you let a friend go through a difficult relationship, you try to help them, but you know it's best not to interfere. So what you do is you stand back and you just allow them to go through it. Haven't we all done this in life? Yeah. So it's important that we do that. Otherwise they won't learn. And then you start creating all this charge on your beingness. It's not a good thing. So you've got to be unconditional, no conditions. Because the moment you start interfering, participating, that's conditions. Conditions apply because you're making that scenario become what you want it to become. You're not standing back and just allowing it to take its course. So we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. And the human form has been created because we carry all the codes of the universe. Because we have taken this incredibly long journey down through all the dimensions of the universe. Down through all the dimensions of the universe, exhausting all possibilities and outcomes on every single level of existence, everywhere. Been it all, done it all, seen it all. Now we take all that wisdom and we reintegrate it now. All that expansion and fragmentation, we're bringing it back. And this has been the process into this galaxy, through all the processes this galaxy had to offer, and then funneled right down in a compressed state on Mother Earth. That's why this is the most dense reality in the universe. That's why everything's so intense here. The version of duality here is more intense than anywhere in the universe. If you understand that, that makes perfect sense. What I just shared with you. Makes perfect sense. That's been our pathway, and we are the way showers. And we only see 2 strands of DNA in the scientific world because the other 10 are being kept from us. Because our whole scientific world on this planet is under the control of an extraterrestrial group, just like everything else is under control to a certain degree by the ETs, an off-world cabal. Because if you think it's just the ruling elite that control things on the planet, you better think again. Because they have off-world overlords. And I've had to deal with this behind the scenes personally. So we've done everything, we've been everything. So we are now going to go through a process here on Mother Earth. You know, I talked about the birthing process before. Because if you take let's express it this way. Okay. A wheel within a wheel. I'm going to give you my interpretation of what Ezekiel was saying, because you've got to understand how people thought back then. He wasn't explaining that these ships that were flying in the skies were a wheel within a wheel in a mechanical sense. Back then, if you said a wheel within a wheel, what you were saying was a cycle within a cycle. A cycle within a cycle, a life cycle within a life cycle. It is the basic explanation of the mindset at the time of the people in ancient times of saying how people come from another dimension. I say to you here in English now, these are beings from other dimensions. How did they say that back then? They were from a cycle within another cycle, a wheel within a wheel. That's the explanation. You just got to think how they thought. People approach ancient scripts and ancient writings with today's mindset. They don't understand how people felt and thought back then. You've got to take that into consideration, the cultural understandings and the way they perceived life at the time and why things were written the way they were written. That is a crop circle design of late too in the last few years, if you're not aware. So, what we have here is all of these cycles now converging in one point in time. Let me explain it this way as well, so you understand what I'm saying, you get a feel for it. Because each one of those cycles that I drew was each one of your experiences in different dimensional levels. Oops, do the other side. Then you understand what the big deal about the main calendar and all the other calendars is. So you have your big cycle, and you have a smaller one within that. So I'm just drawing it now in waveform because people see things and comprehend things in different ways. So other people might understand this concept better. This is, again, a cycle within a cycle. And what we have here is a point in time in galactic consciousness and cosmic consciousness and universal consciousness that this whole journey, if you can, down through the universe, so you have from the point we entered here to the point in time that we're about to experience in the next 2 years is the biggest cycle, the biggest wave. Then by the time you got to here, that'll be the next one. Because it's a shorter cycle. Now from there to the end is shorter. From there down is shorter, right? So it's all your different experiences. Now when we got to here, I mean, there's just so many, I can't physically draw them, all right? You've got to understand this is just a diagrammatic expression of what I'm trying to say here. But they all were going to converge at one point. And that's bringing all those experiences on every level together at one point in time, because we're bringing them back to oneness. We're bringing them back to 0 point. We're integrating everything. Everything we've been, everything we've done. We're integrating it all. And as crazy and deluded and fantastic as that sounds, that's reality. And you're going to find out for yourselves very soon. That's why I stand up here and say this stuff. You're going to find out for yourselves really soon. And I'm excited about that. I am, because the outcome's incredible. The outcome of this process is so incredible. Because after you walk off here today, get on with your lives. I'm not trying to sell you a book. Okay, there was a DVD out there for those who wanted it. Right? But I'm not selling courses. I'm not interested in followers, because that totally is opposite to what I'm about. I'm about empowering you individually to give you this perspective on life. Because this is about self-empowerment. This is about knowing who we are and where we come from. So all I'm doing, I'm providing triggers. That's it. I'm just providing a trigger to help people re-remember who they are and where it is they come from. That's all I'm interested in doing. Nothing beyond that. All of that comes to an end at some stage. We're bringing it all together. 0 point oneness. And that is what the Mayan calendar was about. And that's what the main calendar expresses, the universal cycle, the cosmic cycle, the planetary cycles. A wheel within a wheel, a cycle within a cycle, all converging. And for me, the cycle does not end on the 21st of December 2012. It doesn't, as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't end there. Because that's a solstice. See, we're in the precession of the equinoxes. So there's a mechanical process to this as well. I'm not just going to throw theories at you. Look at things, look at all of it. It's a whole package. Why does the Earth have this wobble on her axis? And why does the wobble, which is a cycle in itself, so all I've done is I've taken a cycle and I've opened it up, okay? So we're looking at it in a linear fashion now, okay? It's like when you go off the Earth, she's a round ball. And then you come down on the Earth, it opens up, it looks flat. Remember, vortex of light, go inside of it, paradigm opens up. Cycle, precessional cycle, come in onto the cycle from high level of consciousness, you experience past, present, future. There's a vortex, cycle. When you go down in that cycle, in that precessional cycle of the equinoxes, you experience it in linear fashion. 24,832 years is the duration of that cycle. Fixed timeline from beginning to end. These are different to the numbers you normally hear. I suggest people take these numbers and start playing with the harmonics around these numbers, because these numbers plug into our DNA. Harmonically, they do. People don't want to accept that fact. In the early 1900s, they measured our precessional cycle at about 25,800 years, that's it, 25,800 years. And they thought that was pretty accurate back then, and they were very accurate. And then they recalculated the precessional cycle in around the 80s, and they came up with 25,920 years. And because they did it with computers, and they measured the cycle at the time, they thought that's it. That's the duration. Because we're more advanced now, we have technology, so we're more advanced, right? I'm going to have another little dig. Why do people focus on the Mayan calendar? Well, after 5,500 years, it's only out by 20 seconds in its phases. We operate from a Gregorian calendar because we're more advanced, which is only 500 years, and we've got to make up a day every 4 years. So we're more advanced, right? So those guys back then who were a pack of savages had no idea about cosmic cycles whatsoever. No idea. No, because they were dummies, they were savages, they were bloodthirsty people, right? Which is a load of crap as well. Might have been one little group, but they'll make that the whole. Because they've got to taint the ancients, because we've got to fit in their model of reality. I'll get into the moon later too, that's a ripper. So, 24,832 years. Why are they measuring it as 25,920 years? What they are missing is the acceleration factor of this cosmic cycle. What they are looking at is the illusionary timeline, and you know me, I don't like that word illusion, but there is an illusion going on here. Not the whole planet and everything, just the matrix, the mind matrix is the illusionary part. And that, because we are below oneness, we are below unity, right? I'm not going to stay on numbers for long, just some people like numbers, so I'll do this. If you increase that by 1/5, because that is the Christ ratio, the golden ratio, the Buddha ratio, the Krishna ratio, whatever you want to call it, the magic ratio of life, and we are below unity. That's where it's at, right? The manifestation of life below oneness and unity, below one. You increase it by 1/5, you get 26,366.618 years, and there it is again, magically on the end. 366 days in the year, and on it goes, right? People say, but George, you said numbers can say anything. They can. It's a label. I'm using harmonics to describe the cycle for those who are into the quantifiable language of numbers. Okay? This isn't times tables numbers. This is sacred geometry and sacred harmonics. Totally different level. Right? These two numbers here and that, these two symbols are the two main numeric symbols that built all the ancient structures and monuments and Gothic cathedrals. Those two. More than any other numbers. This one, the relationship between the male and female, the ratio. This one, the ratio of life. Both of them, the circle, that's pi, right? And that's phi. You can do it this way, or you can do it that way. It's just the line going through the boundaries of the circle. The female and the male. The female and the male. Father, Son, Mother Earth, men and women. It's understanding the building blocks of life here. We're talking about numbers that describe life to its total capacity. Not number crunching, times tables and other formulas, algebra and things like that. That is just robotic mathematics. That is not life mathematics. So if they were to recalculate, and I challenge any scientist right now, I lay that challenge out. Get your equipment and recalculate the precession of the equinox. And you'll see it's over 26,000 years now because it's accelerating. And the precession of the equinoxes do not finish on the 21st of December 2012. It finishes on the 21st of March 2013. That is when actually the cycle ends. Okay, just a little bit of number crunching for those folks who like that quantifiable language.